Hi, welcome back to The Scent Advocate. Tonight, I want to focus on a particular house because I've accumulated three fragrances from the house, and it is YSL's Vestiaire Collection. I'm always a little apprehensive about going with a designer brand, but luxury designer brands have really been um, they've been great. I really didn't have high hopes necessarily, but they have turned out to be wonderful. And I now have three from this house, and I feel really inspired to talk about them. Now, if you stay to the very end, you will get a surprise alternative house unboxing. So, yes, I think this is the last of the birthday presents came in, and this is from another designer luxury house, not YSL. So stay tuned at the end for that. This one, um, I've been contemplating for a while. I've been talking about it for a while. I've been asking in the comments, communicating with a few folks about whether this was, a good idea or not. And I decided yes. And so now I have it because of a gift from my wonderful husband. I'll get to that last. Let's jump right into the YSL Vestiaire collection from my collection. And I am going to start with the one everyone knows best. It is Babycat. Oh gosh, was this one a journey? Of course, this is a 125 mil. It is an eau de parfum, and I really danced around this one. So when I first heard about it, I was intrigued, and I wanted to sample it. Well, that was practically impossible. Then I was willing to do a blind buy because I ended up getting another fragrance from another house entirely that was supposed to smell pretty darn similar, and I purchased it. I still have it. I love it. And I knew that I would love this one. This is the only time in my entire collection journey that I've ever deliberately purchased two fragrances that I knew would be similar, pretty darn similar. Um, I have an inclination to shy away from that. If I think that two fragrances are similar, I definitely don't want them both in my collection. I think one is enough, and I worry about, not really making use of the first one I bought because the second one, is relatively duplicative. Now, I'm not saying that Babycat is duplicative of another fragrance that I have in my collection. However, it is very similar. I'll talk about that other fragrance another time. I don't want to get into that right now. But if you know, you know. I've mentioned it before. Anyway, I did do a blind buy of this, and I fell in love. The blind buy was luck, really. I could not get hold of a sample at the time, like 2 years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago. This was impossible. I mean, you could not find it anywhere. People were just going berserk over this fragrance. It was all the rage, and for good reason. So I got lucky. I just happened to put myself on a waiting list, and I got word, and I immediately opened the email when I got word that the waiting list had ended and there were some available stock, and I grabbed it. This fragrance is extraordinary. By the way, if you have a Babycat journey, I feel like I'm talking about a certain designer handbag that people go on journeys to acquire, right? I think maybe many of us in the FragCom have a Babycat story. If you do, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. But this fragrance is really beautiful. It is a smoky leather vanilla. Hard focus on the leather and vanilla parts. The smoke is kind of in the background. I think it's probably a byproduct of the multiple kinds of pepper in there. So Babycat officially has pink pepper, black pepper, alamy, olibanum, saffron, vanilla, cedar, and of course suede. So I think with the olibanum, that for me can sometimes come off as smoky, and that is where I'm getting the strong, smoky leather vanilla. I think there have been a lot of copies and a lot of inspired buys, but this is definitely in its presentation here unique. Like I said, I do have another in my collection that comes pretty close, but I do think they're somewhat distinguishable. But this is really exquisite. So I read you the notes and that's all well and good, but you could do that yourself, right? So how does this make me feel? Well, it's warm, soft, secure, confident in my state of bliss, right? You're imagining yourself in a cozy, comforting place, and you feel, confident and safe in that. You feel like the warmth of cashmere around you, right? A really warm, natural fiber that doesn't itch. um, and that makes me feel a bit elegant. I have never had anyone sample this where they didn't absolutely fall in love. And that feels great, right? I mean, if you are a collector and you have the opportunity to share the joy of a fragrance with someone else who really appreciates it, it's a blessing. And I definitely get that with Babycat. So the retail price on this, as I researched it right now, is $330. Again, this is an EDP 125 mil. And this is YSL's Babycats. Gorgeous stuff. Okay, moving on. The next that I have in my collection, my second purchase from YSL, is Trench. And it says Sensual Iris. Now, this is interesting, right? Each of these fragrances have kind of a notation at the bottom, giving you kind of a hint at what's going on with the fragrance. And with Babycat, it says vanilla, accord, and this one is Sensual Iris. Now, the notes in a Trench are iris, neroli, ambrette, bergamot, tangerine, fig, cedar, and musk. But what do I get? First of all, this presents completely differently on skin than it does on paper for me. And I don't know if, that's going to be the case from person to person, but that is typical for me. Not all the time, but most of the time, what I get on paper is not nearly as complex as what I get on my skin. So when I wear Trench, I get citrus meets musk in a mature, confident expression of strength and certainty. Yes, the way the citrus comes out, it I don't know, it makes me feel sure of myself. It makes me feel confident and strong. The iris is there, but it just kind of softens things a bit, because for me, this much citrus can be a little bit sharp and, acidic and a little too bright, which is fine, but it doesn't really, like, I don't want to feel that, you know, all the time. And the iris really mutes it, and the kind of white musk that's going on in here mutes it. It's not an animalic musk at all. It's very soft relative to the natural powderiness of the iris. So I feel like it's strength meets certainty meets maturity. And that's where I'm at in my life. So this really resonated with me on a personal level. I'm 53 now, and I'm pretty far along in my career. And this is the right time in my life for a fragrance like this. And I think it precedes me, right? And announces my presence in a room in a very classy way. And that's where I'm at. So Trench by YSL. There you go. Oh, by the way, this is also about $330, 125 mil, and it is an EDP. And the last from this house is a recent, very recent acquisition. It's Caban. Oh boy. Wow. Fascinating Tonka, it says at the bottom. All right, 125 mil, EDP, $330 also. So this one I've tested for at least a year. The notes in this one are tonka, almond, tobacco, pink pepper, black pepper, elemi, a common combination from this house, olibanum, osmanthus, sandalwood, and patchouli. As soon as I got this, I wore it, of course. And what's interesting about it is after about 2 hours, I get a strong sandalwood from it. The sandalwood leans in the direction of like a dill, but it doesn't come out as dill. It's just, and this is my experience with sandalwood, even from other houses. It is either a really dry, what some refer to as a creamy sandalwood. It's muted, soft, subtle, woody, but very blonde, very, very soft, just soft in its presentation. Other times, sandalwood comes out, and some describe it as pickle juice. I don't get pickle juice from sandalwood, not ever, but I see the different presentations, and for me, there tend to just be those two. If I think long and hard and really, really try, I can see why some people might get pickle juice out of some sandalwood fragrances. I don't smell pickle juice, but I smell something that might lean in an herbaceous dill direction a little bit. Not even close to what I read about in certain forums about, oh my gosh, it's just like, dill and dill pickle, and that's not what I get. Pickle juice, no. But I get something slightly herbaceous from it in some instances. This may have a hint of that, but it is so beautifully presented. I mean, just, it's a greener presentation of a sandalwood. How about that one? That sounds right. However, that could be a young patchouli or the elemi. The tobacco might be a pipe tobacco, but not wet. It's not a thick, heavy, rich pipe tobacco. No. This is tonka. I don't get black pepper. I get maybe some pink peppers, like a lighter presentation on the pepper. Olibanum for sure. Osmanthus for sure. But definitely a really great tonka bean accord. Really beautiful. This is something that, unlike a lot of fragrances I've experienced, it blooms on the skin. What you put on initially is not what you get after an hour. And what you get after an hour is not what you get after 2 hours. And to me, that's the art of fragrance. And that's what I'm looking for when I spend, or I ask loved ones for a gift, to spend this kind of money on me, is I want something more. And that doesn't mean I don't appreciate linear fragrances. I do. But something that is evolving with me throughout the course of the day, that's special. That's different. That may just be worth the money. I'm not sure, but maybe. And wow, these YSL fragrances, they hit the spot, especially this one. Have you tried Caban? I don't hear much about it, which of course makes me especially attracted to it. All right. Are you ready for the surprise ending? I was on the fence with this one. It is a different luxury designer house. Can you guess? It is from Celine. Yep. and I am opening it with all of you for the very first time. And for those of you who've been with me for a while, you know that I struggle with these Celine, but I figured out a way, right? You just kind of run your hands up the sides and one of them will give, and here it is. And then you have to pull. It's got this gooey, like glue stuff. And I just feel like it's really well, I feel like I'm not supposed to tug that hard, but indeed you are. And oh, there we go. What have we got here? Can you see? There it is. Black tie. Happy birthday. Yeah, I have other exquisite vanillas, and I wasn't sure because the vanillas I have are iconic from a really special fragrance house. I'll get into it in another video, but I had just, for years, I've read wonderful stuff about black tie. And I love vanilla. Oh, God, you guys. Wow, this was a blind buy. This was a blind buy. And I am so glad I did it. I have not written down the notes for this. I do not know how much it cost because, like I said, it was a birthday present. I'm going to tell you how I feel about it, right? So when I do these videos, I try to give you, like, where I do provide the notes. I'll give you the notes, from the house website, and then I tell you what I think about it. Well, I haven't looked at the house website for this. Wow. This is vanilla with an ever so faint powdery floral, but very, very faint. It's not dissimilar if you've ever made butter cookies, okay, like around the holidays. You get the confectioner's sugar, and if you get a good quality confectioner's sugar, there's something almost perfumey about it, because I think confectioner's sugar is just cane sugar ground the heck up. And when that happens, there's just something in there that lets out something of a perfumey aroma. I've always detected it since I was a kid. There were times when, and I don't know if you've had this experience, but I definitely did. There wasn't confectioner's sugar available in the house for whatever reason. Maybe we used it all in another batch of cookies, but we had to make our own. And the way you do that is you mash the heck out of it. You put it in a blender or a food processor, and you can actually get some pretty finely ground sugar. And when you get the waft of fragrance from the freshly ground cane sugar, that's what I'm talking about here. Oh, these, oh God. These notes are incredible. A very faint powdery orris, not iris, orris, right? The thicker, buttery, but yet still powdery, right? It's like a contradiction is going on in the background. Oh, it's beautiful. This is special stuff. You just want to live in this. This is complete bliss in a bottle. I don't know what else to say. It is an iconic, beautiful vanilla. And if you get a chance to try this, I highly recommend it. This is amazing stuff. This is one of the best vanillas I've ever experienced. It's a complete expression. Now, how it's going to dry down, how it's going to express itself on my skin is to be determined. I don't know. But there's your bonus right here. Black tie. Long overdue in my collection. From Celine, a house I have grown to deeply respect. What do you think of black tie? What do you think of the fragrances I presented from YSL? Let me know in the comments. And hey, if you aren't yet a subscriber, please consider subscribing. I'm trying to build up the channel. Leave me a comment on tonight's selections. Do you think I chose well from YSL, from Celine? I do have 2 other Celine fragrances. I could do a focus on that house. Let me know if you'd like to see that in the comments, and give me a like if you enjoyed the video. And hey, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.